Welcome to Deep America.
Today I'll be interviewing Oren, and today we'll be talking about his life, his parents immigrating, a little bit about Black Lives Matter, and his new podcast, the Whole Hard Truth, and what it's like to be an MC. Right on, man. So what do you like to make music about, Oren?
I was a lot, starting with I got a pretty colorful past.
Hey, we all do.
Son of seriously, like first generation American. So
Cool.
I've been kind of on my own though since both my parents. My mother was from South America, Guyana. My father from the Congo.
Okay.
Estranged from my father for my entire life. He passed away. My mom passed away when I was 13. So my life kind of restarted in 1986. As a 13-year-old kind of wayward youth in training, and my music tended, I think, early to deal with that, just in ways that were either very direct or indirect. I always fancied myself, I always wanted to be like the greatest MC of all time, so metaphor and just, the battle that I grew up on, which was trying to be the dopest MC ever, was a lot of what my music was about, and then the rest of it kind of was a conduit for me to, I guess, exercise those demons. And then when I think got a little older, spiritual wisdom started to filter into my writing, because that was just always kind of been a part of my past. And then from there, the political spectrum started to filter in, heavier as I got older, and realized that I found catharsis, I guess, in sort of speaking truth to power in my own way. Those are usually the common threads. Those are usually the common threads in what I write.
Hey, man, that sounds very empowering.
Yeah.
Well, not just for you, but your audience, man. Because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I never wanted to. I just didn't shine the sort of. I'm not a very flashy cat, so.
Right.
Kind of rugged looking dude, so this Playboy stuff never really appealed to me from it just didn't seem very genuine, you know what I mean?
It's because it's not genuine.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you feel about like the protests for Black Lives Matter, for African Americans being, brutalized by the police? What do you think about that? How do you feel about that?
Early on, I was, after Ahmaud Arbery, I think we were all shocked, to see that, a public lynching to happen in 2020.
Right.
And then Breonna Taylor and George Floyd to follow. And obviously these things were on the heels of, Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. And, as a black man, I think this year I had my damn it, that's enough moment real early in the process. And then you start to realize, I think that as the summer sort of drew on and watching, got a chance to go to, one of the protests, few of the protests out here. One of the first ones, though, after George Floyd. And that was the first, a friend of mine and I went to it, and even walking up, the energy was just, I said, not what I expected. That scene kind of carried its way through as I was being to different ones, and subsequently it kind of curtailed my attendance at them. Some I think were very poignant, a couple that I went to, but there was just a feel there that I've never really thought, even before these moments, that Americans, from the Occupy Wall Street sort of time, when I think back, I just don't think that Americans understood what it was that our predecessors in the civil rights movement or the anti-war movement during Vietnam, I don't think we understood what it took. And I think it's because of things like social media. It's a lot easier to protest and still live your life when you can put up a post and feel like you participated. And I felt like that energy kind of followed its way into the physical happening. Does that make any sense?
That makes perfect sense.
It felt like when you go to these things, you feel like there's a lot of good intentions there, and then there's a lot of people there for their own set of reasons. And the Black Lives Matter movement, early on, I personally as a man, I don't take offense to the saying, but I've never felt like, from the time I heard it, it's kind of oxymoronic to me.
Well, does it feel like it becomes just another label?
Yeah.
You know?
Thing to say, it doesn't have, it doesn't have feet behind it. Now, that's not to say that there's not people involved.
Right.
Are working hard to try and see some change. I just think that, it got sloganized, and then I don't personally also agree with a lot of the platform that the real, the organization, the official organization of Black Lives Matter. I think it's hard, when you see what's happening in Chicago, not even Chicago, Park Hill. I'm born and raised in Denver. There's a gang war going on here in Denver. Young black men killing young black men. The day of Juneteenth this year, while there was a mixed multitude of people marching in the 5 Point, for a very good cause, Black Lives Matter and Juneteenth kind of converged together. And then in Aurora, there was 2,000 young people having a barbecue in a park, and one kid gets killed. You know what I mean? Behind summer beef that never got
Which is terrible, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's hard. I'm a pragmatist and pretty critical thinker, and it's just hard to hear and see that sentiment being propped up. And I have a big problem with police brutality, obviously.
Oh yeah, I do too.
I think for all of us, I think it's just, we need to know that it's probably not okay that the police can kill it.
I think, man, like if you have the option as a human being to end anything with death, why are you going to go through the motions? If that makes any sense, and it's like, what the fuck's actually going on? Anyway, sorry, man.
No, it's just so those things are kind of, I think, banding together on those messages is just in everybody's best interest. And it's kind of oxymoronic to be screaming Black Lives Matter, and we're not taking care of, the problem that's very clear in a lot of inner city, circumstances that, you can't say Black Lives Matter if Black Lives don't matter to us, kind of type thing. And that's not to take away from the movement again. It's more so that it doesn't compete, you know what I mean? I don't understand how those groups aren't finding themselves in the heart of, Southside Chicago telling gang members that, hey, Black Lives Matter, and we only show up when the cops, we're waiting for the cops to shoot and kill somebody, you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? So, overall, long-winded answer to your question, I'm with it because social change can only happen with boots on the ground, and so I definitely support that. And then there's just part of it I've had to compartmentalize differently so it can make sense to me, and I participate, accordingly.
Well, and that's awesome, man. I feel like, to me, what you're kind of saying is or not kind of, but Black Lives Matter, but pushing further as to what else is going on too, and where else this can be applied, instead of just in one place. The interesting thing to me that I think came out this year that I was not like, and this was after George Floyd, I think I saw a media or a news article, right, about how the police had like amnesty and being able to rape people they had arrested or have sex with them. And it's interesting because go ahead. What's up?
No, I was going to say I know the stipulation or statute. They were actually questioning whether or not a person can be consenting within police custody, and obviously in the quintessential case it would probably be a young lady in the custody of a cop, and how can she consent even if she consents, quote unquote. Quote, even if she consents, like, well, I think we can all guess what that's about. You want to go home or you want to go to that stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's right, and it's just like a drug dealer to a person who is an addict. If you want this, you're going to do what I want you to do. It's the exact same concept. That's what, like, a lot of the stuff gets to me, because since it's not happening to someone directly and it's outside of their perception, Like we don't know how to like empathize and sympathize with things. But one of the things I was going to say about that in particular as well, man, is like, you know, I've lived in small towns and dated women in small towns. Subsequently, some of those women had police stepdads that they gave me just crazy accounts where this rape stuff happened to them by these police or their stepdad who was a cop, but also told me stories of why their mother divorced particular cop because they were having sex with people that they would pull over, you know. It just, yeah, it's insane, man. It's I don't know. What do you, how do we fit?
I mean, it's the same as the immunity that, you know, the whole thing with police, I've been saying it, I think, since I started speaking on the matter, is that, you know, the people who occupy it, it takes a special type of person to occupy that position, right? Because the job dangerous, sure, probably not nearly as dangerous as I think it's always painted up to be. That's not to take away from what they do. I'm just saying, it's like, it's not every day that a cop leaves the precinct and, you know.
But when you sign up, you know you could die.
Yeah, you know, I think that, you know, it's kind of a condition that we all share. But, you know, you got, you know, their job description, okay, maybe you put yourself in harm's way more than the average person. But,
right.
you know, the ability to kill indiscriminately and always have, you know, the law and this, you know, immunity on your side to be able to mishandle the people that you're supposed to protect and serve, whether it's, you know, dealing inappropriately, you know, male cops to female, you know, perps or assailants, and, you know, or whether it's, you know, how police exercise their authority literally in the street, you know, and just acting more like a Gestapo, and that's just not good for anybody. You know what I mean? So
no, it's not.
That needs to be in that situation needs to be a leader. You know what I mean? And somebody who is, you know, adept in conflict resolution and
right.
is confident in defending themselves with their hands, so they're not always reaching for that gun. You know what I mean?
Defending themselves with their mind, so they can de-escalate.
That's right.
You know, have you ever looked into like the testing to become a cop? It's testing about being a follower. That's it, not a leader.
Right.
Which is telling in itself.
I know that there was a couple of studies that they ran, and they said a lot of cops, you know, fit the psych profile of a lot of criminals. You know what I mean? So
right.
You know, it's just power unchecked like that can obviously, as we're seeing, can just run amok. You know what I mean? And that, yeah, I look at policing as a necessary. I mean, if you're going to give out speeding tickets and stuff like that, you shouldn't have much contact. There's no reason in the world a traffic stop should end in someone getting shot. You know what I mean? There's no reason in the world that should happen. Right. Very rarely, you know what I mean, are you stopping a hardened criminal, even if it's somebody who has a warrant or something of that nature.
Right.
And so, you know, I feel like as an institution, policing, you know, I have high school buddies that are cops, you know, right? And they're police officers. I have a cousin that was a New York City police officer. I know good people can occupy that position, but the overwhelming, you know, would have to be that in order for policing to really make sense the way that they carry it out right now.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, too, like the media we ingest in America culturally towards cops, if you go back and look at that media, the movies and things of that nature are not about good cops helping people across the street, right? And so I think it like a lot of this ties into like what we're selling as media to each other and why we're selling that as well, like our ideas for success and to make money, I think are so bloated and blown out of proportion that we need to assess that. I think that's one of the starting points.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know what I mean?
You know, we are first consumers of media.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then we are a consumer-based society, and it's like those messages, you know, for the longest have painted, a picture of policing that is either, you know, corrupt and, you know, cowboy,
exciting
on the side of a car, shooting while you're driving type shit.
Right.
And there are well, you know, everyday cops will see on a daily basis. They see people who are in need of mental health services. They see people who are in need of aid in, domestic situations. And,
Right.
it's just that, if they don't feel like a part of the community that they police, it's just a recipe for what we're witnessing.
Well, and I think that's happening quite a bit too. I mean, I've been raised in poor areas, and I've had friends that were in poor areas as well. And a lot of these areas, like, in Georgia, the poor area I was in is predominantly black. The cops you see coming through there are white. And to somebody who hasn't paid attention or anything, that may not make a difference, but there's all sorts of different attitudes. You want somebody that can go within that community and communicate, not somebody who's an outsider and go. I mean, that's just bad news.
Yeah, there's no vested interest.
Yeah,
in the community that you patrol. Yeah.
So, have you been paying attention to like the police reform stuff going on?
I have.
Is there anything good?
I mean, unless you truly do it away with qualified immunity, I think it's all kind of toothless.
Right.
Saying that.
Right.
The bill that they passed here in Colorado is like, cops have to wear body cams by 2023. All cops will have one. Like, well, how much could go wrong between now and then?
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah.
Something that should have,
It's insane. No, and I asked you that because I know about that stuff too, man. And it's just like, what are we actually, what are we actually doing here? You guys are just talking, and you're getting nothing done.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I'm saying.
I advocated for and still do making it a federal requirement that all police be licensed and bonded and insured. We actually wrote up a petition. It hasn't gained as much traction as I would have liked, but wrote up a petition called the Gregory Act.
Yeah.
And that's what it deals with. It's basically, one federal standard could change the way policing, happens in every locale because, if a police officer feels like they have something more than just a couple of days' work to lose by how they interact with the public, if your ability to work is on the line, you would probably get different results from police officers. And that's from the inspiration, that's straight from the mouth of Dick Gregory. I think the common sense solution, and I hope to continue pushing that along as my platform grows, because I just think that it doesn't matter then what a cop goes and whatever their prejudices are.
Right.
It's like being a doctor, or being a pilot. You only get one chance to fuck up, right?
Right.
Lose your license.
Right,
so
man.
It should probably be about the same with police officers.
Yeah. No, it should be the same. There should be accountability within there. So you don't just, I'll say willy-nilly, like, shoot somebody because you were a little nervous. That was kind of, and like within the Gregory Act, so if a cop does something, then that means a civilian has the right to sue them as well?
Absolutely. And what it would make sure is that the monies that are paid, the damages that are paid, and, like I know, these are hundreds of millions of dollars probably annually that are paid out, from municipalities having to settle with people who have been mistreated by the police. Well, you make sure that those monies come out of the police officer's pension. You make sure that, because that would encourage the good cops to look at the overzealous cops and say, hey man, now you're messing with my retirement.
Right.
So that's the motivation behind most Westerners is your pocketbook.
Right.
Because you have to make money in order to live here. So it's like, if you put that on the line early on, I think if you make it, if you make it well known that you're not going to pay these damages out of some reserve cash that the taxpayers of your city have set aside, and their tax has been set aside for damages. That's what ends up happening now, is that most of the damages paid are paid out of either fines from traffic stop, the kitty or the pool of cash that builds up over time from traffic and whatnot, and then whatever other allocated funds come out of the city budget pays for that, as opposed to paying it out of the police union pension fund. I think you probably get a lot bigger results there too, because now you're talking about that hundreds of millions of dollars that could be for guys ready to retire is not sitting there, because guys don't know how to behave themselves. And I would imagine that you'd see police start policing themselves in terms of their behavior.
Well, that's, and that would be phenomenal, and I think that could get them to have more accountability. I hope we can get into it, like get in, and I don't think it's completely getting rid of the police. I think it's
No.
I think what it is and what we need like what you're doing here, man, critical thought, towards this, and it's obvious. Like, I think to a few people, it's obvious what needs to happen if they're not caught up in these narratives of this stuff,
Right.
So how did, so you set up a petition for the Gregory Act?
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, do you submit that to Congress, or how do you do that? Well, I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, once I think we wanted to get it on as a federal measure,
Mm-hmm.
and we were working. So you gotta imagine that this was right after George Floyd that drew it up.
Right.
The thought was, well, let's get something that could maybe make November's ballot. Obviously, we missed that window.
Right.
A couple of colleagues, a couple of friends, people close to me here that really jumped in and started helping me shape the effort. We realized that, okay, maybe we look at it from a state level first, and like that kind of pilot test program. So the hope would be to get it on the Colorado ballot next year, and see if we can get something passed. Like I said, they passed that police reform bill here, and Polis was happy to sign it, and everybody was sort of celebrating it, and I think mischaracterizing exactly what the bill itself actually did. If you read it, I won't say it's toothless, but it's basically more of the same. Reporting, this cop has to tell this from the stop, and by 2023 they have to have body cams, and it's like, you guys aren't serious about protecting people.
Right. You're gonna allow that.
The police.
It's I saw when they put that through, and I was like, 2023. I was like, well, I guess we can just keep killing people, because we don't have any accountability until 2023. Like, it's nuts.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound like these people are beholden. These politicians are beholden to these police unions. The police unions are a very powerful lobby. You find out, and then the threats to stop policing certain areas. I mean, we've seen that crop up across the nation. And it's kind of crazy to think about it now in this moment.
What is I would like to say hilarious, but it's not. What is terrible, is a lot of this stuff has went on way before George Floyd and persisted, and we're in 2020, and now that the George Floyd got killed in that manner on video. And now that that's happened, about every other day I'm turning the TV on and another black man is killed or somebody else is killed by the cops. And it's like, so you guys really want to tell me that you have a problem with brutality and violence and you're killing people, especially minorities, black people, but you guys want to pander to people and then do nothing about it is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it, again, highly contested and political, and that does not make for change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
And people, start, choosing sides, and then it becomes political, and then, you're further driven into your silo. Everybody was like, Blue Lives Matter,
Right. Well, no, you're divided, yeah.
It's like nobody does it. I don't think anyone doesn't support police and don't support murderous cops.
Right. I don't really support anybody killing somebody else.
That's a good way to live it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's like this extreme measure to where you're about to die and then you need to defend yourself or something of that nature. It's not. That should never be an answer to it. So, when you
have to go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. I was going to lead into something else. You're good.
Well, I was just going to say, when you look at it, how many times you read the story where, cop confronts bank robber and forced bank robbery in the middle of bank. It doesn't usually happen. Most violent crime happens, and then detectives show up and who did what. Right. And so it's just, I think it's further proof that it's like a little less eagerness to flex muscle and a little more community would be a great thing for policing.
Yeah. No, it would be amazing, you know.
I appreciate that.
So this podcast, man, I initially started it about a year ago. And before it was ever cool to do podcasts, I was doing a podcast. I'm old, right? And so what this is when I look out here today, I see just a bunch of people who don't know how to relate to each other, right? And so what this is for is to break barriers down, I hope, right? And for everybody to get to know each other, man, if that makes any sense.
Wow, what's crazy is the podcast that I'm starting, if you look on my page, what's up there, it says The Whole Hard Truth. And I am literally, I did kind of a social experiment myself.
Okay.
About 2.5 years ago. Because it's something that I was going through, it's similar to what you're talking about, I wasn't going through it. My oldest sister, or my second oldest sister, I should say.
Right.
Pretty high profile media personality, was going through a thing, just kind of a doxing thing on Twitter, and my other sister and I got, family being family, we jumped in to say our piece and, defend our sibling, and just that experience over the course of about 2 weeks just left me so drained.
Oh, I bet.
What the hell is going on? And what I ended up doing was I put up a Google Voice number on Craigslist, told anybody who, because the way that we talk to each other, social media is not interesting. It's kind of funny because, like I know, conflict used to get settled in a different way.
Well, right. People are not afraid now, and in a way, you don't get punched in the face for disrespecting people, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so my post was more so encouraging anyone who's gonna, at the brink of speaking terribly to somebody else, either in their regular everyday doing or on the web,
right.
Call me and just get something off your chest. And a guy actually took me up on it. He called me, and the story that he told me was wild. We talked about 3 hours, and he was in disbelief. He was like, "Why are you doing this?" I was like, "The whole point is to, be a sounding board for somebody who might otherwise, sound off in the wrong way to someone else." And that kind of inspired The Whole Hard Truth. And as much as to say that I want to create a space where people can come in, talk their shit, tell their truth, and not have to worry about, being confronted or dehumanized, because of disagreement. So it's interesting that you would say that. Yeah, I'm on that same page, and I think we need more of that.
No, we need tons more of that, man. I would like to see like people in like almost every town do their own podcast about what's going on in that town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you don't have a conglomerate bullshit media. Laying these labels and these templates over these issues to try to sell a candy bar. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's right.
It drives me nuts. So do you? So our Ariella, a young lady artist, had referred me to you. Do you make artwork too, or?
I'm a writer. So
okay, cool.
I started my writing career really as an MC.
Cool.
I was in a band out here called Blue Chain. We rocked for a decade, and it was good shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From that, my professional background was radio and television. I worked for the Fan out here. I was on air personality for the Fan.
Okay.
On air for my high sports radio. On air with Fox Sports and Rocky Mountain and Fruit Sports after that. And I took a film opportunity in 2014, and that moved me out to California. And so by the time that path kind of finished, I was full down the rabbit hole of creative writing. So my art is my work.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think like art becomes a real relative term. Cooking is art as well. Sorry about that. That's what I'm trying to say. Well, cool, man. That's pretty awesome. So, So what I was looking at your page there, why are you a concerned citizen, man?
I think much of what we just talked about, I think that we're on the brink of a change, and hopefully the change is better. It definitely could be a change for the worse, considering the landscape that we're at. And, politics is the easy sort of lightning rod synagogue place where people congregate and get all their wiggles off. But to
Right.
your point, when you said that, people should have a podcast in their town, I think on a granular level is how life is lived, but we tend to, micro level is how we live life, but we tend to look at everything that we discuss from a macro level. And my concern as a citizen is more so for our humanity. I think that politics, first of all, it's bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like,
right.
the big national scale, the federal scale, of politics, the things that, of course, you can have some say-so in some regard, but no.
Very limited.
Let's say in your local, electorate, you're far more effective as a voter, and then even more than that, in your home and in your neighborhood and in your community, you're far more effective as a citizen. And so when we're having breakdowns like we're having, we still live as close together as we always have, but it seems like we're further apart.
Right.
As humans, that concerns me because I think that what lies on the other side of that, we're deep in the ideology sort of era, and everybody has one, and no one wants their opinion stepped on or challenged or can't handle at least being challenged. And
Right.
we're losing our humanity. That concerns me as a citizen more than anything. That we're not stepping forward with all our technological advances. Like we're devolving.
I was gonna say, yeah, man, it should. I think when I look at things myself too, to support what you're saying there is that we've lost the idea of community and how that we've lost the idea of how good it makes you feel to help another person out and see that other person then go help someone else out, and that domino effect of positivity. We've lost that, and that's terrifying. Because then we are nothing more than animals, really, ready to jump on whoever. One of the things that I hope is real is I spent a lot of time in the South, and there was I walked past this animal that was dying, right? And it's a dying animal, and so that thing is reaching out for life, right? Because it's about to die. And so when I look at the isms that are popping up now, and it drives me nuts because we're in 2020, you'd think we were over these things and had sorted them out, but we haven't. I hope it's like a dying animal. Racism, sexism, all the isms, man. All of it, man. Well,
tribalism more than anything.
Right.
We're just far more fractured. It's interesting because, you say that we be nothing more than animals. I personally, I think we do well in watching how the animal kingdom sort of operates.
Oh, yeah.
Dogs don't delineate amongst one another in terms of breed. You know what I mean? A dog's a dog, and a dog that likes a dog, and that doesn't like another dog doesn't like another dog, but it's definitely not because German Shepherds don't like chows. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like, as a species, they move in concert forward. Same thing with every other species. And because we are so opinionated and, so advanced, quote unquote, in our reason, humans have basically certain, not even human, on the other side of whatever. And it's just like, we're losing our humanity. It's kind of a daunting task to sort of roll that back.
Right. Well, I think it comes. What I think is even more bizarre is we've lost interest completely in each other in a lot of ways. We're not as curious. It's like when I was out of the country, that was one of the most fascinating times of my life. Right. I got to look at a different culture and actually be in that culture and check it out, which was amazing. You know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like, hell, they're trying to put a wall up against Mexico. It's like, have you guys ever heard of the fucking Berlin Wall? That was a huge thing that we knocked that shit down, and here you are. Not to mention the tunnels under all that stuff drives me nuts, man. So
yeah, it's intense.
It's wild. It seems like with our political spectrum that it just these extremes. They want you to latch on to these extremes, and it's like, what are we really doing? Oh, we're dividing ourselves now. It's like, well, wait a minute. Aren't we stronger if we're not divided?
mean, you would think,
Yeah,
you know, and there's strength in numbers, all the cliches that you can come up with, but there are definite benefits to the ruling class, I believe. Fractionalization. You know what I mean? The more fractured we are, you know, and we you know, the tribal anyway, so we're already going to divvy up, you know, automatically we're choosing sides and choosing teams just on, you know, some basic shit. But that doesn't have to be detrimental. That can be beneficial if it remains, you know, I think if it remains super granular and everybody's concerned with their community and starts there. But I couldn't agree more. It's just, you know, we're so easily divided, and I don't, you know, personally think that that's for no reason.
No, I personally don't either. You know, I look out here and it seems like entities or powers that be are going back to like the age old adages, you know, things that happened in the 60s and revving that up today, if that makes any sense. And it's just like, okay. So let me ask you, so when are you going to put your podcast out? And you said it was The Hard Truth?
Yeah.
Or The Whole Truth?
The Whole Hard Truth on the DNVR podcast network, and we'll be starting up in October. Yeah.
Cool, man. And what are you guys going to cover?
The first one is going to be pretty deep. You know, like I said, I wanted to set a tone or establish a platform that would adhere to stories, I think, and, you know, the words of people who aren't quote unquote famous or, you know, the household name, so to speak. But also, more than that, for whoever is participating, sort of, I want to get a space where we can talk about things like what we're talking about, and not have it do the thing that currently happens right now, which is somebody says something that someone finds distasteful, everybody chooses sides, and then either it's the deplatforming that needs to happen, or the shutting down of someone's message just because you don't like or agree with what they're saying. So my first, in order to, I think, create a space where people feel comfortable coming in and talking about real shit, you know, their hard truths. I use myself and my story as a father estranged from two daughters for, you know, a decade, somewhat similar to my dad, and my sort of comeback from that. And, you know, talk about how me and my girls got to that level, and the infidelity that sort of sparked the end of my marriage, or didn't sort of, it ended my marriage, and that was on my part, and, you know, the role that I played, and the mental condition that I felt like I was in coming through that, how I think I came out of it on the other side, and, you know, the path to rebuilding a positive, healthy relationship with two beautiful human beings post, you know what I mean? And so I figure if I can do that and be forthcoming with my story, then I expect nothing less than from anyone else who comes in, you know what I mean? So I sat down with two of my brothers and people who were with me through this ordeal, know my character and aren't afraid to tell me where I'm right and where I'm wrong. And we had a real conversation about it, and I'm in the midst of putting that first one together. And then I got another one with a friend who was substance abuse addicted. He was substance addicted and came out on the other side of that. So we're going to do one about the real inner workings of the alcoholic. And then I got one with one of my friends who was shot by some nefarious business that his son was involved in, and we're going to talk about inner city gang violence, you know what I mean, as we've seen it and witnessed it from, you know, I think the inside perspective. And so the hope is to, you know, have these conversations and shed light on some things that are, you know, not run of the mill, but, you know, commonplace for people to talk about, and things that might not be so, you know what I mean? And try and grab real opinions and real stories from real people, and
that sounds amazing.
And have people be able to sit and listen and hopefully learn something from that, even if you don't agree with what it is that you're hearing.
Well, yeah.
We can sit down and converse and actually dialogue without tribalizing, you know.
Right. It's man. I think that's where it's at. Oren, that stuff sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear it. To be quite honest,
I'm really excited. I'm really excited about it.
you should be. You have an opportunity to help people.
Yeah.
With that, which
cool.
which is one of the the biggest things you can ever do in this world. You know.
Sure.
So, is there a current? Is there somebody you're currently emceeing with?
Yeah. You know what? One of the first, as a band, Food Chain disbanded quietly.
Okay.
And each of us, there was 8 of us in the group. Each of us kind of went their own creative direction, but as a whole, we still maintain and work with one another. So most of the stuff that I've been doing remains with my producer Dave, Mass Pride, my other producer Mike Coates, and my other partner, my homeboy C1. So usually that's been the circle as these one-offs come up and get produced and go out. It's usually still going to be a Food Chain affair. It's just taking on kind of a different field, not such a group effort.
Cool, man. Cool. I did notice a video you put up that was "I Can't Breathe." Did you help with that, or?
That's one of the guys I'm talking about. Mike Coates, the producer of that track, and my homeboy Ed Measy, and a couple of other homeboys did a phenomenal job on it. And the track itself was in dedication, I guess you could say, to the moment that we're living through, where police violence is concerned. And it's been widely received. You know what I mean? It's gotten some real national shine, which I love to see. My people doing well, so I'm fully in support of that. And
yeah.
I peripherally just provided promotional support. For that one. But yeah,
right on.
That means a lot.
But still, that's community, man. which is I don't know. I know throughout the interview I said that a lot, but that's one of the points I try to drive home is that we got to find community again, within this.
Absolutely.
Well, with that, Oren, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
We got a partner of mine and I. One project that I have is real.
Okay.
I think now I can sort of speak about it. There's my time in the film world sparked the creative sort of screenwriter in me, and
cool.
A partner of mine and I, we started a publishing company and we had a chance to go on a trip to Santa Fe, New Mexico, 2.5 years ago now.
Awesome.
And go to Meow Wolf down there, and that started a 2-year-long journey to collaborate with Meow Wolf on an exhibit that's going into Meow Wolf Denver. So,
awesome.
People are gonna want to see that, and we have a
whole
suite of content that's going to accompany our installation in Meow Wolf Denver.
Awesome.
And it's all about the multiverse and multiversal travel and story of redemption. It's a pretty intricate story that we wrote about a girl from Denver, Colorado, who becomes the Laura Croft of the multiverse. So
awesome, man.
That is a project that I am super excited about being involved with, and we're just going through the contract phases right now. We'll be in the installation phase here in about a month inside the facility at Meow Wolf. And it's an exciting time in the world. You know what I mean? I don't know what it's gonna look like in 2021, but if things don't explode, I think 2021 with the opening of this Meow Wolf exhibit will be something to see in the city, and I'm ecstatic to be a part of it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It sounds like a hell of a journey.
Yeah, it's been a long one, man.
Hey.
It's been, but I wouldn't say the day of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
All the things that we've kind of covered in this call, and all the things that life has been up until this point have led me to these places, and so to see them come to fruition is tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of reinforces it kind of reinforces my belief in the universe and the way that it works in your favor, even if you don't really notice. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I think if you don't notice, you probably weren't looking, and you need to do a little more research.
Right. That's for sure.
You know what I mean?
You, right?
Yeah.
It's always talking to you. Yeah, man.
Right on, man. With that, man, hey, thanks for doing an interview, man.
No, I appreciate you having me, Ray. This is tight, man.
Yeah, man, yeah.
I appreciate being on the platform.
Thank you for joining me. And Oren, and thank you for listening to Deep Americana. Have a good evening.